even in a filter is just a really short delay mixed with some of your input signal.
Okay, dumb.
So delay is everything. Delay is everything.
Really?
Yeah,
From a
A
digital
filter
perspective,
is
yeah.
related to a delay.
Yes, I mean, even in analog, you're delaying signals, you're adding phase with different elements, inductors, capacitors, and you're changing the timing and adding it with your original input signal. And that timing difference cancels out some of the frequencies.
And that's how you get
I get to get a low pass,
brighter
an all pass, a high pass. Yeah, all those things are you have a delayed version, like tiny, fractions of a second, super tiny, adding it to your input. So the filter on a mini Moog is, you can think of it as 4 low pass filters cascaded. They're little tiny little delays that you're adding to the input that's subtracting. That's where the subtraction comes from.
Today I've brought in 2 giants in the world of audio innovation to ask them questions about some common effects that we all use but may not truly understand. What is delay? What is reverb? And what exactly is DSP? Terry Burton and Angelo Mazzocco have shaped the way musicians, producers, and engineers experience sound. These 2 first met at Line 6, where Terry was building next-gen hardware and Angelo was pushing digital signal processing to new levels. After nearly a decade, Terry founded Strymon, and the team pioneered delay and reverb pedals revered by artists. Behind Strymon's iconic visual identity was Gina Kim, a visionary creative whose design and branding shaped the aesthetic that defined an entire generation of boutique effects pedals. Angelo, Terry, and Gina reunited to launch Meris, a company that fuses studio-grade sound design with musical expression that I fell in love with. I've used Meris pedals for years, so I made a call, and they're here. No sponsorship, just love, curiosity, and the chance to get answers straight from the source. Terry and Angelo, what is delay?
We'd love to answer that question.
Yeah.
I would say in its most primitive form, delay is the sound of an ancient human being yelling into a canyon and hearing the echoes, reflect back and forth. But us as a hardware company, obviously we're trying to recreate the math and physics of that in a studio environment. And I'll let Angelo speak to the deep technical things about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really intuitive. You're recording a sound and you're playing it back at a later time. And that first parameter, just the distance between your original sound and then the first repeat or the first time you hear it, changes kind of a lot on what you perceive and what you feel. So, I mean, slapback is an early form of primitive reverb, that was really short delays. But at its basic level, it's just recording a sound and playing it back. So even yelling into a canyon, like the canyon is kind of, the memory of that sound is, coming back to you. It's something that, it's something that you react to. And as a musician, it's something that you react to just instinctually, like having another person in the room with you. And so the delay kind of becomes a little mini, version of yourself that you can express yourself by playing against and have a little bit of what you just played come back to you.
Well, your analogy, Terry, reminds me of the first time I ever did that. I yelled and heard my voice in a canyon and even in the shower or in a big room. The first thing that happens is I smile and I get an emotional reaction and I feel alive. And then I typically do it again. So it seems like when I put delay on a musical instrument, it makes me want to play more. And then it makes me want to listen too. So I play and then I listen and sometimes when I don't have delay on it, I might just play more because there's not as much to listen to, and it creates almost like a character or a mirror or something, like you're dancing.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things factor into just the expression of the artist and kind of making this as part of their instrument, part of their musical expression. It just becomes one big thing. So the different attributes of the delay can definitely change the performance and highlight parts of the performance that you want to use to express yourself.
Well, in analog delay, I don't really have the level of control that I do on a digital delay. It's just like the color is it's just like a downgraded repeat that I get. And I like that.
Right.
But when you choose to make a digital version of it, right, then what happens? You can get in there more and...
That's the whole point, is that like when we created these, we wanted these to be an instrument almost by themselves, in and of themselves, but they're an extension of your instrument too. So like you were saying, like inspiring different sounds. So there's the rhythmic element, but then the tonal element of the difference between like a bucket brigade, analog delay, or a tape delay, or a digital delay. Those all kind of have different vibes and
So how many are there?
responses. Those are the big three,
Can we go into each one just for a second?
Yeah, there's the analog, bucket brigade style, tape style, and then digital.
Okay, first one.
Anything that somebody is calling an analog delay is a bucket brigade. It's almost a form of early digital sampling because it's doing sampling, but in the time domain only, not in the frequency domain, right? It's like
Yeah, you have these little capacitive elements.
Yeah.
And that's where the name bucket brigade comes from. It's like the fire.
If you think
Dump
of a
the
cartoon,
bucket into the next bucket.
your sound just keeps kind of getting sampled and replayed that way.
Okay, so I understand it and everyone understands it. So is it literally like sampling the sound onto a chip?
It's like a little wavelet. It has a clock.
It has a clock. It's sampling it at a sample rate, but the amplitude is analog. So it's like a sample and hold, like same kind of concept from a synthesizer. So that was the earliest, like most crude form of delay.
It stores it on a chip though, right?
Yeah, it's a little chip.
And then how does it brigade it? Like goes to the next chip? Is it another chip?
It's doing that with capacitors, yeah.
Yeah, it's just moving the little chunk of your
Electrically.
signal around,
It's just moving so
element by
slowly
element,
that
yeah.
it becomes a delay.
But when I turn the feedback up, it'll go forever. So is that just more buckets?
That's a whole other
That's
thing.
the signal just feeding back
Yeah.
into the input.
So it's literally feeding
Yeah, it's
back.
really just a wire coming from the output of the delay back to the input. It's a mixer. So you have a mix of your input and whatever came out of the, delay element, whether it's a tape or a bucket brigade or
The reason,
or an oil
so the reason why that, from a hardware point of view, that type of delay sounds so dark and kind of grainy is because the technology is really old and it's super noisy. So you have to put a huge, really extreme low-pass filter on every stage to kind of kill the clock noise.
Oh, really?
So
that's why it's
that's
dull.
why they sound so dark.
So it otherwise could be more present.
Yeah.
But noisy.
But you just get a ton of annoying noise. So
Yeah, or run it at a faster clock rate.
Yeah.
Run it at a super high clock rate, but you would need a bunch of those analog chips then to make a really long delay.
So what about when I change the delay and I get it to in the analog delay, right?
Yeah.
The bucket brigade one, and I get it to pitch up and down. What's happening there?
Yeah, so that's just this. Well, that's on any delay. So you have the rate of change of the sound just becomes perceived as pitch. You perceive all of those expansion and contracting of time as pitch changes, just like a Doppler effect would happen as a car would pass you. So that pitch like slurring, that's really just kind of inherent to stretching out the sound and squeezing it back together as you're changing the playback of whatever it is. So on a tape, like you're changing really the tape speed, or they had those oil can, the Benson Echo Rex, so you actually changed the motor speed.
right.
But that's where you're getting the pitch variation from.
And so if you're getting vibrato, essentially, like when you could modulate a delay, then you're just changing the speed, like
Just a little bit at a time.
with an LFO or something.
On a memory man, it's just a little LFO varying the clock speed.
Yeah, just like modulating an oscillator. You're modulating that clock speed. And in an analog delay, the clock is variable in real time, so that has a really distinctive sound.
It's similar to chorus, though, at that point, isn't
Yeah.
it? A quick thought for you. What would happen if you actually learned to think like a synth? You'll quickly edit presets to get the sound you need. You'll be able to make the sounds you're hearing in your head from scratch. You'll create your own sounds that will elevate your music and make it stand out. You'll be able to confidently program almost any synth. And you'll expand your sound palette for all your projects. All of this and more is in my course, Think Like a Synth. My goal is to show you everything I've learned in my career Every technique, tip, and insight in an affordable, fun, hands-on synth course that you can immediately apply to your music. As you progress, you'll develop the unwavering confidence to know what every knob does before you turn it, which will empower you to create any sound in your imagination and set your music apart. Get a free lesson at anthonymarinellimusic.com and start creating legendary sounds for your music. This is why I wanted to bring in the experts, like, what's the real difference between all these things? So we're starting with delay, and we're gonna move on to reverb and then understand DSP, like how it turns, how it gets digitized, and then what are the advantages of doing that?
Well, the cool thing is that most effects like delay and reverb and chorus and modulation are all kind of delay, but they're just different implementations of delay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the 3 building blocks of sound. So you have a multiplier, you have a sum, you can add them together. So just those 2 elements, the multiplier and the adder, you can make a mixer.
What's a multiplier?
So it's just yeah, exactly. So just a volume control. So if you have anything that just scales your signal or scales your sound, that's you multiply it by 0 to 1. You can make it silent to full blast. You have the ability to add multiple signals together. So just by those 2, that's how you get the feedback mixer and a delay. You're like scaling the level of the output and the level of the input. You're adding them together. So you have those 2 elements. Then the third element is the delay line itself, whatever it ends up being. Those things, like Terry is saying, can make anything, really anything. Even in a filter is just a really short delay mixed with some of your input signal.
Okay, dumb.
So delay is everything. Delay is everything.
Really?
Yeah,
From a
The
digital
filter
perspective,
is
yeah.
related to a delay.
Yes, it's just a small.
In a DSP system, yeah.
I mean, even in analog, you're delaying signals, you're adding phase with different elements, inductors, capacitors, and you're changing the timing and adding it with your original input signal. And that timing difference cancels out some of the frequencies.
And that's how you get
Get a low pass, an all pass, a high pass. Yeah, all those things you have a delayed version, like tiny, fractions of a second, super tiny, adding it to your input. So the filter on a mini Moog you can think of it as 4 low pass filters cascaded. They're little tiny little delays that you're adding to the input that's subtracting. That's where the subtraction comes from. The phase canceling.
And you say 4 because it's a 4-pole filter?
Yeah. So it's 4 1-pole filters, and that's how they get the ladder filters. Like the ladder topology is 4 of these little filters. But I mean, delay is at the heart of it. So those elements, add, multiply, and delay. I mean, you can make anything from it, really.
Yeah, and what Angelo's doing in DSP is really, sometimes creating something that can only be done practically digitally, but a lot of times also recreating something that's doing the same math on your signal as would happen in the analog circuit.
Yeah.
It's doing that same circuit. Like the analog circuit is doing math on a signal too, but just with analog parts.
Sure. Yeah, because like we're drawn to things like you said, yelling into a canyon, and then we're just like recreating the experiences. Okay, we got to get to the second and third types of delay, right? We did bucket, brigade, and then
yeah, and then I would say tape was, really beloved type of delay, which is pretty simple to think of it. Like, tape heads recording and then playing back the audio right after it gets recorded with feedback to get, and the distance between the tape heads is the delay time on one type of tape delay. That's an echoplex. The other type of tape delay varies the delay time like an analog delay with a clock, but the clock in this case is the speed of the tape. That's a space echo.
Oh, so the difference between an echoplex and a space echo is that the space echo varies the speed of the tape.
Yep.
And the echoplex, you have a fixed
Physically,
distance,
you're moving.
but I could move the distance.
Yeah.
When that little slider on we'll show you.
Yeah, so the Echoplex motor is always running at the same speed, but yeah, you're just moving.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Because, but the thing is, when you move the tape head distance, you get that pitch change like you do in the Echoplex.
Like a digital delay. The Echoplex operates more like a digital delay sounds, like an original digital delay. That's kind of the same type of mechanism in audio terms, whereas a space echo operates more like an analog delay with a variable clock.
Wow, I never thought of that.
And the space echo also has the cool like multiple heads, so you can get rhythmic patterns from having more than one output on the tape.
You have multiple heads, but then you just change the tape speed.
Yeah.
I never thought though that, like, because the predecessor, the earliest one that I knew of was the Echoplex. I'm sure there were a few before.
I think the Echoplex is definitely first, right?
There's some like weird guy building into like a guitar amp. Like there's some like weird like inventor dude.
And then there's the
Stockhausen was doing.
There's the Benson too, which is it's related because it's using tape heads but with platter, right? Instead.
Yeah, they have like a little like a fluid-filled magnetic disc.
Yeah. It's kind of the same idea though as a space echo.
Yeah. You're recording your sound. You're speeding up or slowing down.
That's so interesting though that the father of digital delay is the Echoplex.
I kind of think of it that way.
And analog delay is more related to a space echo where you're changing the tape speed.
Yeah.
You have to have a pretty good motor though to have to handle that. Like,
yes.
You know, because it has to be okay to change and then be stable at the new change.
Yeah.
Okay, so I never thought, so that's a really different type of delay. And then the color is dependent on the tape and how clean the head is and the motor speed. I mean, there's so many factors.
And whatever the designers are doing to combat noise, it actually changes the sound. So they'll do compression and expansion, which gives it its own weird tonality and kind of life to the sound. And it also affects the way the delay repeats. So with that compander circuitry, you'll get kind of like almost a pumping sound out of the, some of the old delays. And like you were saying, filtering to get rid of noise, that changes the tonality of it.
But when they put a filter on a delay to get rid of noise, you're saying they're putting another delay on it.
Yeah, a really tiny one.
It's insane.
A really tiny one.
I never knew that.
Kind of
really?
a
really tiny one.
It's a baby delay.
Yeah, I mean like
at the microscopic level,
fractions of milliseconds. But yes, it is. Yeah, That's how I build filters in these things, are just those three elements: adding, subtracting, multiplying, and the delay element.
But really, like even in an analog circuit, when I play through a filter, there's latency.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it's not perceived. So the human ear is perceiving it as a tonality change. It's so small.
Well, less than 1 millisecond gets pretty hard.
Yes, yeah. So it's the phasing that everyone is talking about when they're talking about phasing. Like matching signals, and you'll get that with microphones in a room. If the microphone you're miking the same source, and you're recording the same source, and you'll get weird. It's either dark or combed. Those are all forms of filters, but filters by just tiny delays, a distance of microphones.
It's that small of a delay where it's like two mics in the same place on a guitar amp, and then you're moving one back and you're hearing filtering happen when you're mixing them together. Yeah.
But the thing is, your ear does pick that up.
Yeah, the ears.
You don't perceive it as a time thing.
It's a color.
It's a color.
Yeah.
And we have much more ability to distinguish color than timing.
It's still our best audio measurement device is our ear, as much as test equipment is great.
I think it's natural though, because like we're, as humans, for survival, like the sound of a familiar voice and that sort of thing, we pick up color. We don't really care if there's like a delay.
Right.
Like you didn't say that exactly when you said it. Okay, and the third?
Digital delay is really like, it's what you think of delay today. It's a digital system where you have an analog to digital converter, you convert your signal into some kind of binary form, and then do some processing on it, fill up a piece of memory with that delay, and then play it back later with feedback again.
How were they capturing the sound digitally in the 70s?
Same way, but
They had
maybe
digital
more
components?
just more crude, more crude or handmade early analog to digital converters. You know, way worse noise performance than we are.
Right.
We're pretty spoiled today with how good the parts are to get pristine audio quality. You had to work hard for it early on.
The NAB standard was much low. It was like we were using MAG. It was pretty low. It was 8K, I think.
Oh, okay.
That was the frequency response of MAG, which what most movies that you went to see in the theaters were on MAG. And when I used to deliver film scores, they would put the music on the film tape. It was sprocketed.
Yeah.
And then it would be an audio track, but it was 8K, which is like kind of where an emulator was, I guess, like in terms of sound quality, which, it's cool. It's like, it's warm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess it didn't matter. So it was just crude digital.
Yeah.
But now digital has the ability to, I don't know where we are now with like floating point. What is all that? Now we're talking digital. Went to the topic, digital delay.
Digital delay. Go deep.
How has that evolved from the 70s to now?
I think there's probably just more convenience and more, more powerful parts for the designer. So the designer has more flexibility in making something that musicians would want. To me, that's the biggest. Every time I have more horsepower in a chip, I use all of it because I know I can take that horsepower and translate it into either more details or more new things, new color palettes for musicians to play with. So that horsepower is and the fidelity of it. It makes things way easier as a designer.
Yeah, we're spoiled now. We have 24-bit A to D, and a 64-bit processor, and loads of memory, and this is a we call it embedded systems design. We're really making a hardware audio processing platform that's just standalone. So the idea is, do the audio. My job as a hardware engineer is to get the audio in as cleanly as possible, no noise, no artifacts, so that Angelo can have a blank canvas to paint on as kind of a DSP artist person, and then get that back out as cleanly as possible.
Back out analog.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of analog in there.
Yeah, and there is a lot of analog too. Like one thing we do is to combat any latency we mix. We have a digitally controlled mixer at the output that mixes some of the dry signal.
Yeah, these have an analog, digitally controlled analog mixer inside. Yeah.
So
at the front or both?
At the back, but it connects to the input. So
and what's it mixing between?
It's just mixing some of your dry input, so that if your mix, unless your mix is at 100%, you're usually getting some dry analog for zero latency. Yeah,
dry analog, but also for sure for zero latency, but also dry analog just for the beauty of blending.
Yeah.
It's everything for me.
Yeah.
And if I can't, and if the old pedals don't have the ability to blend wet dry, many of them don't.
Yeah.
And I use reamping boxes just for that, so that I can get the signal down to the level of the old pedal, coming from a synthesizer, right? And then I'm able to do a wet dry mix and then boost the signal back up on the affected part.
Right, for sure.
It's what you see on a lot of the videos and how I get those sounds.
You get way more clarity and way more.
Way more. Yeah. And I find that I barely need a lot of effect. I'm almost all dry a lot of the time. Like when I first make the sound, it's like, oh, this is amazing. And it's all wet, right? And then when I actually use it, by the time I get to the use, without it, you take it out and it feels like it's missing, like what happened.
Yeah.
It's gone, like that magic is gone. So that's really important. You have the mixer on there. I'm super excited to let you know that I have a Patreon where you can get exclusive videos and interactive live streams. So click the link in the description for more information, and let's get back to the video. Well, maybe we should hear a few things if we could illustrate. Now, we can simulate a lot of those different types of delays here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starting with the tape.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to play a couple notes into it.
Sure. Are you set up in the tape mode?
It's on a tape preset.
Oh, it's already there. Okay, how would we make it sound more like an Echoplex?
So we have inside here, we have a bunch of different delay types that you can navigate through. And we have different types of delay.
Types would be tape.
Yeah, so right
digital.
now it's on magnetic.
Oh, different types of tape.
Yeah, yes. This is so there's two things you can choose. So there's the structure and what we implement in the structure is how kind of the delay overall experience is. Is it multi-tapped? Is it doing something interesting with stereo? Is it doing something interesting rhythmically? But then separate from that, you have the ability to choose the tonality. So right now it's magnetic, but
All right. Well, let's look at what we just talked about. Like we're on tape. What types of tape, and then how many heads?
Okay.
Like those would be taps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Delay taps.
So
yeah.
what are we talking about? Let's just pick one and then hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So where we were at was magnetic, and I think we were on a multi-tap sound. Let me see right here.
So that's multiple heads, right?
yes,
So if I play one note, there's an accenting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you can change the relationship between those. So you obviously have the ability to change the time and kind of slow that down, and we can like emphasize the difference.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's panning too.
Yeah. So we take advantage of the stereo outputs, and I mean a lot of old devices did this too, where you can put different taps on different outputs and get a different stereo spread from a mono source.
What else can you change like that? Is it still magnetic?
Yeah, it's still magnetic.
So that's a sound. What if it's not magnetic?
Yeah, we can
change that
go back
core
there.
sound.
So we can change it to brigade sound.
Oh,
So
this is more like an analog delay. So it sounds duller.
duller, yeah, for sure. And it has some of that clock grunginess to it.
There's some distortion and some noise added in.
It's got some bend to it, right? That's not this sound, is it?
Yeah, I don't know where the bend came from.
Did it for a second.
Yeah, for a
didn't it?
second, yes. It seemed like portamento, but I don't know.
Well, it could have been a mini Moog, because the analog synthesizers sometimes will do things, and the pitch moved, and then the delay picked it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And with these devices too, like for instance, this one is not so much designed to be a thing that only recreates things from the past. So we have all these core elements, but in this preset, I can't remember exactly what's going on, but there's other things that could be affecting. We wanted to take like the historical types of delay that we're talking about, and then go next generation of things you could do with those core types and mix and match and put compressors in the feedback and do kind of like make your own delay, like just whatever your imagination.
yeah,
can.
like a studio that you
Right.
couldn't afford
Right.
from
Absolutely.
from the
Yeah.
80s or
Yeah.
70s or 80s, and now it's all in one little box.
Yeah, it's very much inspired by modular synths.
Yes.
So you have all these different elements, these different categories of elements, like Terry said, compressors and drives and filters and other modulations that you can then insert wherever you want. You can actually build up your dream delay. You can put them in the feedback loop. You can have it in front. You can have a lot of
it has like Moog, style filters, Oberheim style filters, like all.
Oh, you can even control the
Classics,
filters.
yeah.
Okay, what about digital delay? Let's hear that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna scroll us back. Yeah, there's and just to highlight, there's things like crossfeed, so you can actually like have two different delays and have them, influence each other.
Well, can you do that? Let's start first with the digital and then do the crossfeed.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, so I'm getting back here. So there you go, digital.
Digital delay. Okay, let's see what happens.
Sorry.
There you go, super clean.
Yeah, no degradation in the repeats.
So what happens is, I hear this rhythm, and it inspires you to play in rhythm, or if I played against it, you get a different kind of feeling. So digital delays in terms of music, they've influenced me a lot, and I know like guitar players like off the rails, like U2.
Yeah.
So many of the '80s guitarists would set their delays. Then they had magic formulas. If they had stereo delays, they would do like a dotted quarter and an eighth note.
Yeah.
One side would be dotted quarter, but there were all kinds of magic formulas, and then but mostly I used analog delays and tape delays, which weren't so precise. I couldn't set the beats per minute. I would sometimes like sort of just ear it out, but then the track would go and it would be like with a live drummer and whatever, and it'd just be whatever.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Is pretty cool with delays too.
Yeah.
So I don't get too bogged down in the beats per minute. I maybe even if it's a starting place, but if you're live, then everything can change. But they're very important, I think, in the music process for me. I mean, reverb makes every synth sound bigger, more fulfilling. But delay, I think, really affects the way I play, the note choices and the rhythms.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's the rhythm. That's the fun part of the delay.
Of the delay.
Yeah.
And then now with modern delays, like what you have here on the digital side of things. But I guess it sounds like you can do all of those extras with the original sound, like with a bucket brigade sound or an analog.
Yeah.
You still get all the compressors and the filters and the multiple taps. And
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that was something that Terry talked about early on. He had these conceptual drawings where you really could build up your sound, these building blocks that allow you to like get the best of the old tonalities and old experience and be able to reorganize them in whichever way you need for your music.
It's great. I mean, this has really opened my mind. And to hear things like what I just learned about filters, that filters are delays at their heart or their essence, or one of the smallest building blocks of a filter is a delay.
Yeah.
Outstanding. And that the old style tape echoes, like an echoplex, is closer to a digital delay, and the later space echo is closer to an analog delay. This is all kind of different ways for me to think about it. And I think it's going to affect the way I create music. So now let's take a look at reverb. My chance to ask the experts. Terry and Angelo, what is reverb?
I'll go again.
Yeah, go for it.
The ancient humans maybe yelling into a cave. Is that a good one?
Yeah. I mean,
and then a cathedral later on.
Yeah,
those are kind of the big early natural reverbs, right?
Yeah.
What about the ocean?
The ocean. I never thought about that.
It's funny that you say that.
But I guess a whale, right?
Yeah.
It does something.
Yeah.
It's like really tight, but it travels.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, and it travels in a way that you can see. Like one of the things that inspired me with the predecessor to this, the Mercury 7, is just standing on a lake in Michigan throwing rocks and watching the waves collide. Like you're really seeing all of that interaction that happens in a room. You're seeing it on the surface. I mean, it was a glassy lake, so just throwing rocks, it was just like, oh, this is so inspiring.
Ripple effect, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's happening in the room with you.
So it's like, again, like delay, right? But it's just really close together.
Yeah. So
cascading.
Yeah. Different perceptions of delay. A slapback was used as kind of like an early, mimic of a reverb. That really tight delay, a bunch of like really tight repeats. That kind of gets you in the space of what a reverb does, which is try to emulate like a cave or a cathedral, the reflections inside of a room. The time it takes for your source to get to one end, come back to you, that's a delay. But now, instead of just one dimension, it's 3-dimension, it's everywhere. And more dimensions than that, because as a listener, you're moving around, that changes the perception of the reverb, all of those things.
Well, perception of sound, I guess, changes. It's perception of vision, I guess, was 24 frames per second, where you stop seeing the frames and you see it as one. Perception of sound, where like around 20 cycles or something. You can take an LFO and go, and I'll demonstrate it. and it sounds like one tone, right? So I guess if you put the delays really close and then you smear them a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that reverb?
Yeah, I mean, the earliest forms of synthetic reverb, they started with a delay line. And adding feedback to it, it's like, okay, I'm hearing some echoes. That's kind of what you're getting. One of the early breakthroughs is realizing that, okay, not only do you want a feedback, which is the output of the delay into the input, you want a feed forward path. So some of the...
What's that? Okay. I hear that a lot now.
Yeah. So if you can just imagine your sound going into a device, and there's a delay in there, like a long delay, and the output of the delay is coming back. So your input's coming in, there's a mixer right away, and you have some of the output of the system, the delay, mixed with the input. Then right after that, before you get to the input of the delay, you take a tap off of that. So you're getting some of your input signal, some of the feedback, and you're taking that to the output. That creates a special type of relationship called an all-pass filter. So that's really important for reverbs. Reverbs are a network of delays, but it's important to have that input mixed at the output of every delay. And it does multiple things. So a single delay with just a lot of feedback and a really short one sounds like a flanger. It's really combed. It's a metallic sound. Having some of that input smooths it out. It gets rid of the metallic.
Straight signal.
Yeah, so you'll get something that's more flat in frequency response instead of combed. So having that as a part of the network of delays that are building up your reverb is really important.
Network of delays. So you've talked about feed forward, and then you also talked about an all-pass filter, which I've never really known what that is, and I've heard it in relation to phase shifters as well.
Yeah, perfect.
But when I hear all-pass, it just sounds like it's doing nothing.
Right.
Doing nothing in frequency, which is really important, but doing something dramatic in phase in time. Yeah.
So they just sort of like hid the phase part in the name.
I mean, it's kind of the most natural thing when you're thinking about sound and you're thinking about just waveforms that you see like in a DAW and you're looking at it. The amplitude part of it is really kind of intuitive. It's like, oh, this is a louder sound, a louder waveform. The thing that is less intuitive is the relationship of that waveform in time to the other things that you're doing. So that little time differences, the little delays are measured as phase, the phase angle between these two things.
So when you go in, I guess there is phase shift concerns though in a reverb too. If you have an all-pass filter.
So the all-pass filter gives you a broad, frequency response that then you can carve up as a designer and to mimic the absorption of the walls. Like you want it to like get darker, not as dramatically as an analog delay, but over time you want it to get darker. But that phasing, you want to be really careful that you're not getting buildup at certain times. So those phases, if you get a lot of phases that line up with each other, it starts to sound unnatural. It's like, okay, this reverb is not sounding real to me. Mm-hmm. So one technique is to choose them at very specific numbers, prime numbers. And the other technique is to move the delays around a little bit. So you'll get a little bit of motion in each delay and get rid of that phase buildup that you're talking about, where the sounds are like all coincident with each other and getting something really harsh.
You need the move, it's almost like a randomization.
Yeah, I mean,
occurs in nature.
It's closer to what you were saying before, where your perception, things start to blur. So you're taking discrete echoes and blurring them in a way that your ear hears them as a natural space.
Right, because you're talking about a network of delays.
Yeah,
right?
network of delays.
A digital reverb, is going to be a network of delays being used together to sound different than a single delay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's a term diffusion that I see.
Yeah.
What is that doing?
It's all-pass filtering. So you'll have a bunch of these all-pass filters, and really just think of them. I mean, everyone has an intuitive sense of like a digital delay pedal. You're just mixing some of that input into it and get to flatten the frequency response. So you're getting a bunch of really flat, uncolored echoes that you can change the density, the diffusion. You get a bunch of them really short and next to each other. It smooths out the sound. So,
is it like they're like this, and then you're putting more in like this in the middle?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
adding-
As you're turning up the diffusion, you're if you can just imagine your initial signal as an impulse, you're just kind of getting more of those little reflections. So you can think of them as like some of the reflecting in a room. It's a really complicated thing where things are reflecting off of elements, and so you're getting a lot of that diffusion in a room from different elements inside the room.
But is that why digital reverbs were so, even in the late 70s, early 80s, they were very expensive, the Lexicon reverbs and other ones, a few other ones, EMT, rare to have, but it was like, that was the good reverb. I mean, we liked springs and we would do it with the analog delays, but is it because it needed to be digital to really get that finer level of diffusion, like to fill in all the middle?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because you can build everything I'm talking about out of tapes, out of tape machines. You could have hundreds of tape machines. Mm-hmm. And so it really, it's like, why were the original digital delays so expensive? I mean, the technology was expensive, but the alternative, building everything out of analog, which is possible, you can build everything, every sound you could build out of analog elements, but it would be like $1 million.
Yeah, it just becomes impractical.
Yeah, it's just impractical.
Yeah.
So
back then, memory was really expensive.
Exactly.
So that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And you also wouldn't get sort of the unification that occurs when you're in one system, because if you built it out of all these different decks, they would all have different filter characteristics. And because with the digital, you could have similar. You don't have to have exact, because then maybe that's not so good. But so it's a more unified, more homogeneous reverb. It would probably be tremendously amazing with all those tape decks, but it'd be like, that's the sound, right? You couldn't really change it much.
Well, I mean, if you were ambitious enough, you could. You could change the speeds and you could change the settings of all of these tapes that you had in front of you. So,
but not recall it very easily.
No, exactly, yeah. So it just becomes really expensive and really impractical to do these things in analog. It just,
and less control, like you're saying, too.
Yeah.
Less repeatable control.
Yeah.
So I would say the difference then between delay and reverb in the simplified form is just how close the delays are to each other, and then how much feedback you get without it going crazy. And I say that because when I make an analog delay have a lot of feedback, at a certain point, it just keeps going and goes crazy. But with reverb, the digital reverb, you just get this long. So why doesn't it go crazy?
You can have it sustain infinitely, and that's where the analog design is so important. So in a system, you don't want to have crosstalk between the input and the output. That'll just spoil everything. So if you have some of your output, in the system going back to the input, that's why a really good, clean analog design is an essential part of any digital system. You have to have it.
Because of crosstalk?
Because of crosstalk and distortion, all those elements that are out of your control, you need to have a really, clean working
That's
space.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what you were saying earlier, Terry. You want to deliver the audio, the analog audio in a pristine, so it's like pristine analog, because you think of pristine digital, right?
Yeah.
But it's pristine analog that goes into this workspace.
Yes.
And then the digital workspace is like, it's a white space where
It's a clean palette,
create something interesting.
And if there was crosstalk, it would ruin it.
It just makes it really challenging to do anything, because then you're running up against the the analog constraints on a digital system that you might not always want to be.
Yeah, I can imagine. You try to draw a line like this, and then there's all these anomalies. I don't want that. And you're fighting it. And then on the end, too, the same thing, taking that. But then you have, so really to have good, let's say to have great digital, you really have to have great analog.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And at the very lowest form, everything is analog, like even DSPs are made out of transistors, but they're just microscopic, working in the right way.
So interesting, because I was at the early stages of Synclavier working with them, and it was really the first computer, really, it was a mini computer.
Yeah.
It was a real serious computer, and it was all digital, so we thought. but it was really the combination of Cameron Jones and Sid Alonso, Sid was the hardware person. And that's, I think, what made it sound so good, because it allowed Cameron to do exactly that, to create digital things we had never heard before, but they deliver it,
Right.
Yeah.
you know? And it's just so important, and it never fails. And there's a lot of digital stuff that just doesn't really sound that good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's probably wise, because the analog's not there.
The analog part of it has to be solid to be punchy and to, be noise free and to have good frequency response and all that stuff that you want.
Do you think, okay, I gotta ask this. Do you think that's why plugins, and I'm gonna be presumptuous, lack punch? Because where's the analog?
Yeah, I mean, in that case, you're just fully dependent on your interface, right? Your audio interface, and so you're only getting that analog conversion once or twice, maybe, depending on how you're doing things. I don't know if I would even agree that plugins lack punch, but we like hardware because of the self-contained power and control and experience of using it physically like an instrument. I have friends who are doing great DSP and plugins, and they sound great. And I have, friends in the pedal community that intentionally kind of muck up the analog side, for more character too. There's like all different methodologies of dealing with it. But for us, we want to make the cleanest canvas that we can so that we have full control. Angelo has full control to do the whatever we want in digital without any.
Sure. So a lot of factors
mud.
there.
Yeah.
I get it. But when you have it working well together,
Yeah.
that's where the magic happens. And when you basically, like you kind of said it, when you just have a plug-in in your DAW, it's working as well as or in conjunction with your analog hardware.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not really always designed to work together. Maybe sometimes they are. And I understand how like somebody making a pedal could muck up the analog, but that's intentional.
That's intentional.
Where it's not like it just happened and why isn't it punchy? Well, we wanted to make it distressed sounding or something, or pitchy.
For us, we wanted studio quality. We always wanted growing up as kids, we were lusting over this rack gear that we couldn't afford, and we wanted studio quality stuff. So.
Yeah.
I want to take a second to remind you to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and ring the bell so you don't miss any future videos. And go to AnthonyMarinelliMusic.com to find exclusive free content and more. And thank you for all your amazing support. Let's get back to this video. But this all important stuff, like when we're looking for a device, okay, which to me, I'm looking for an instrument. Because you guys are inspired by musicians. I've heard, every time I talk to somebody that's like a great designer, I mean, it's always that. It seems like that's always what drives you, what makes it happen, what gives you meaning. It's like, well, hearing the music that comes out of it, and that's why we do it, right? It's an instrument. It can be an instrument, and it should be an instrument, I think, for musicians to really gravitate towards it and use it a lot and to create something new. But we look for controllers, hardware, right? On a plug-in, maybe you don't have that, but hopefully we're developing that so that we can have different ways of getting in there besides always a mouse and a keyboard, although that's a lot of times preferred, but there could be other possibilities. But also a good marriage of the hardware. I think we absolutely have to have that. And then interesting designs. So all of this is what comes together. And I never really thought of it in that way, though, how important the analog is. So when you're looking, at options, I a lot of times will go to a hardware pedal because I know all that stuff's working well together because it was designed to work together. Even if it is the case that Terry said where it's supposed to be like mucked with and distressed and pitchy and sounding, like something that's just damaged almost, which is pretty awesome. And you can create this type of thing. So those are the elements that are important to me. Oh, and then one other thing that matters a lot to me, it's distortion, saturation.
Yeah.
So how does that play into digital?
Yeah, so on the analog side, on the way in, we're trying to minimize that as much as possible and make it as clean as possible. And then we introduce it in DSP. Angelo's got some really cool algorithms to do that in a tube style or a transistor style.
Digital distortion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like a dirty word when you say it like that.
Filthy.
It used to be. It used to be because of a lot of the things that Terry is saying. And the systems were not up to snuff, and the horsepower was not up to snuff, and so the nonlinearities that you would add as an algorithm, as a math equation that replicates the tube, which you can do exactly. Back then, it was some clear deficiencies that gave everyone a bad taste in their mouth, which can actually be a style, having that digital aliasing, and it's some people rely on it stylistically.
Yeah, like bit crushing.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so you think we're at the point now where we can recreate analog distortion, not replicate, but what we feel about it, like
Yes.
digitally, so that we're going to feel the same.
Yeah.
And when we put different volume into it, it's going to do something.
Yeah.
When we put less volume in, it's going to expressive distortion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no reason why that can't happen in all sorts of different types of systems, digital being one of them. Yeah.
And we always have the option to take that clean digital thing and then run it through an analog distortion.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But that in terms of reverb, is there distortion just in some qualities of reverb that we know we like that you build? Do you build distortion into some of the reverbs?
Yeah, I mean, I think spring reverb is a good, tube-driven spring reverb is like a good example of that. It's a classic sound that we can all recognize, and it has a lot of nonlinearities in it.
And that's distortion, nonlinearity.
Yeah, it's it's just a fancy way of saying distortion. Yeah, it's nonlinear because you're clipping signal, which means anything that's when someone says, "Oh, this is a linear system," that means all the information that you put in, even if it's modified, you can get all that information back out. A nonlinear system just means some of that information is lost. Some of whatever it could be, whatever sorts of information, it could be speech, it could be music. If a nonlinear system makes it so that you can't recover some of the information on the output.
Yeah, you went out of the range of your circuit, so then you distorted. Just like overdriving a mixing console. Like you can't get back.
Yeah, but it's like when the digital circuit isn't really designed to it, it's kind of all or nothing. You just get like it's clean, now it's distorted.
Yeah,
and that's kind of it.
There's some harsh distortion definitely out there that's not desirable
because it's not designed for it.
Yeah,
right? To tap into the finer.
Yeah, and that again, it was a hallmark of early systems, and everyone just said, "Oh, it's bad," because there just wasn't the horsepower to deal with it gracefully and to deal with it properly. And now we have, chips that are fast enough and powerful enough to actually do the right math on it to represent the tube or whatever type of distortion you're looking
And
for.
how important distortion is to music. I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
to miking a clarinet up close, the level of grunge that you actually hear, and a violin with the rosin.
Yeah.
I mean, you mic this stuff far away because of that. And the spit from a trumpet, that's all distortion, and it's distorting the pitch, the
even
timbre.
the human voice, right? Like, certain people have such a cool distortion in their natural singing voice.
Like voiceover people, and you mic them up close, and it's like that's some of them even smoked to get it.
Right.
Yeah, because we feel it. It gives it character. It gives it personality. The same things we say about the human voice, but that's what it is in music.
Right.
So distortion. So I guess that would be the fourth thing. So I'm looking for the interface, something that you can do inside that's interesting with the algorithm, the combination of the digital and the analog hardware working together, and then the distortion. Is there anything else? Like that's all for music, though. That's what I care about. Is there another component?
I mean, I'm going to sound stupid, but like a spiritual component. To me, that's really important to feel one with the device, because a device can have all those things. And if you don't connect with it, if it's not like, if it doesn't become a part of you when you're using it, then it's like, I just don't like it.
Us connecting to an instrument and feeling inspired and having that feedback, for sure. like you said, with
Wow.
you know, us being inspired by musicians, you were saying that just a couple of minutes ago. It's like, yeah, we're like so lucky to be able to do this as a job. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
this is our job. You know, that's like
Super grateful.
Yeah, we're just like ecstatic to be able to do this instead of some other type of engineering. And yeah, we wouldn't do this if it wasn't for the musicians and the music we love. And we're musicians too, but not pro musicians, you know.
I know, but what you just said, that is so resounding to me, because that means a lot to me, the spiritual element, because I can quantify that in a lot of examples, like a Stradivarius violin,
Yeah.
you know, the finest violin. It feels really good and it looks really good and it's beautiful. The wood came from a certain place and everything about it, the horsehair on the bow. When you talk about vintage synthesizers,
Yeah.
there's a lore to it. The way they look, again, the wood, the design. You want to play it, right? And there's a certain experience that you have where if the Mini Moog sounded exactly like this but didn't look like this, and let's say it was like cold metal, and it just, the knobs were squishy or something, but you could still get the sounds, that's what I think you're talking about. And then maybe beyond, but at least that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the aesthetics are a huge part of it because those are design choices. Like you're almost in like union with the designer. Like, you know, you're kind of feeling their intent and feeling their art, and it influences the art that you're creating. I mean, it's amazing.
Exactly.
Like,
That's what I was thinking of too. Is like like a certain music we were listening to when we made this Reverb. We're listening to that music all the time in the office. Like Bob Moog, obviously the people he was interacting with, all the musicians he was working with at the time, and that influenced the instrument.
Oh, Herb Deutsch.
Yeah.
If it weren't for Herb, I don't know that we would have a keyboard on it.
Yeah.
It would be like, like a theremin going, woo, woo.
Yeah.
You know, it was just important. I'm sure Bob Moog would have gotten there another way, but it was important, the relationship with the, and the same thing with the Stradivarius violin and the development of all the instruments, Beethoven and the pianoforte, because he needed a piano where he can like punch out what he was writing.
Yeah.
And it was still a little muddy, and he plays voicings that sound different on our pianos than his pianos, but it's all a development and instruments that can play in tune.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing. And I think you guys are pushing this, and it's great that you come from, it's not like you're digital people, you come from music.
No, yeah, the love of music first, yeah.
Yeah.
And the analog's so important. It's really impressive. I think we need to find out what actual digital is, and I'm going to ask the big 3-letter question. Okay, Terry and Angelo, what is DSP?
So DSP is what most people probably already know is digital signal processing. And at the very basic is taking your analog signal, digitizing that signal, processing that signal, which means doing mathematics on it, and then, sending the signal back out.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also add to that, I think it's important to understand just signal processing outside of just digital. So we're surrounded by signal processors. Like you mentioned, a violin, clarinet, a guitar. A guitar is a signal processor. So the signal is the oscillation of the string, and then the processing is all the choices that the designer made about the resonance of the body, about the woods that they chose. That's all signal processing. I think synth is a good example of a signal processor. So you have an oscillator, and then you can process it with filtering, envelopes, volume. So I think every instrument is a signal processor.
What a way to think of it.
Yeah.
Sure, I see that.
And I think, so then digital, it's exactly what Terry said. So now you have this box that processes signals, your sound, but the best and most fun thing about digital is you can create your perfect recipe list. So you write here all the processes that I want to have happen, and it's just like making a recipe for any anything that you would eat. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to add a little bit of this, I'm going to take a little bit of this away. I'm going to introduce this other element. This other thing is going to interact.
So you can change the wood. You could change the wood of the guitar.
So you make a list of all these instructions. That's your recipe for your sound.
So like a human, like the larynx then.
Oh yeah,
that's a signal process.
Yeah, you have these oscillations that happen. Your mouth, your teeth, everything is that your head is a signal processor. You're changing and expressing the way those vibrations happen.
We actually have a vocal formant filter in some of our stuff.
That's okay.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't even know what DSP stood for. It was digital signal processing.
Yeah.
And then is that the only type of digital DSP, or is it just all-encompassing? Is there a different type of signal processing?
I mean, yeah. So the signal processing is just a wide subject. It's almost in every discipline. You're thinking about transmission lines. So in a room, you transmit stuff over air, but there's a study of transmitting things over wires and getting that just perfect. So signal processing kind of touches a broad range of jobs that people do everywhere. As far as, are there alternate digital signal processors? I mean, I would think there's just alternate applications. You can do it on a computer, or you can do it on the chips that we're using.
Well, we used to do it with analog, and now we do it with digital.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, is there a third one that's done with artificial creation or some other way of?
I mean, now you're talking about some other future computing.
Maybe,
We haven't
thought of it yet.
Maybe that would be where the sound doesn't even exist in the physical realm or something, or there's no formula. It's just, you just feel it.
Wow.
Okay, so we're out of it. I mean, we got it covered then with the two, right? There's analog and digital.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Terry alluded to earlier, you can make the same chip out of transistors or vacuum tubes. You could make this giant, ENIAC ancient computer with, millions and millions and millions of tubes, and it would do the same job that this is doing. So it's just the digital is just it almost liberates people to get these experiences at something that's really accessible, because no one could have this giant tube computer.
No.
But you could do all of those same instructions, all those same math processes on other types of computers that were built out of analog elements.
Right. But then where it becomes an instrument is you've got this formula, because you literally are writing formulas, I guess.
Yeah.
But when I turn this knob, I don't want to know about that. I
No,
just
you
want
don't.
to hear it.
Yeah.
So you've had to transfer the formula to a controller,
Yeah. So
an instrument.
So just curiosity. Both Terry and I are super curious about how these old rack systems, how these old things worked. And you just end up learning about the math behind it. It's like you keep pulling off a layer. It's like I'm interested how the TV works, so I take it apart and look at it. And then I'm interested in how this circuit works, so I take it apart and try and break it down into an atomized level. And then you find what processes make things sound the way they do. And so I did the same thing with the Moog filter. I just kept taking it apart to understand what is happening in here. Why does it sound the way it does?
Oh, so you used ones that you liked.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, your inspiration, whatever you're inspired by. That's where it started.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you create music, where you find music that inspires you and then you emulate it.
Yeah.
That's what we all did, in earliest piano lessons, composing, right? And then you learn how to make something new from something that it existed by putting it together in a different way.
Exactly.
And you're finding that. What do you find the difference between doing that in analog and doing that in digital?
Well, in digital, I mean, it's having that amazing ability to transform it on a dime. So you can make the same horsepower, you can turn into a filter, you can turn into a reverb, you can turn it into a synth, you can turn it into an oscillator. So it's just having that freedom of choice. Instead of, with an analog circuit, you usually kind of, like you alluded to earlier, there's less variability. You gotta you make this thing, you wired it up with solder, and now you can't easily repurpose it. And I feel like a modular synth, a bunch of these different signal processing elements is a good way of kind of like bridging the gap between something that's a static analog system and a digital system. I mean, modular is kind of like an in-between, right? Because you have all these different little elements that you're then patching up.
But it still allows for accidents. Like a lot of the early synth designers, Tom Oberheim, for instance, talked about the sound and trying to find the right sound, and then it went too far and it was too clean, and then he went back to where they were with the distortion. Do you find that in working with DSP that you can still discover things and just go,
oh,
whoa?
yeah, 100%. Like it'll, like Terry and I will be in the office, like, well, what happened? Like, what was that sound? Like, why did? And it's happened multiple times, through the years. It's like you happy accidents. It's part of every creative process.
So it's just, you can't just take that out of it.
No. I mean, that's that's part of the discovery. A lot of times when you're making an algorithm, or designing a preset, it's kind of like sculpting. You're kind of like sculpting a sound, and you're adding and taking away, and the little surprising things like, oh, I didn't mean to turn that knob, but now it sounds really cool. Right. That's just part of it.
Yeah. Well, where's it going then? Where do you guys want it to go? What would you, if I could just be the wizard and say, what do you guys need to make the thing that's in your imagination next?
Yeah, it is. Some of it is in our imagination, and some of it is building tools to inspire other people.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff is honestly like stuff that we just want, like personally. And then, like I said, tools for musicians that are way beyond our ability to be inspired and then create sounds that we hear again and love.
Yeah. And kind of adding to adding to the library, adding to the lexicon of sounds. Like we don't. There's so many valuable things. Like it's all good. Analog pedals, digital pedals. There's all sorts of flavors. So we want to bring.
Yeah, and it's amazing to have been a kid as a guitar player and see Steve Vai with an Eventide rack, and now people talking about our humble little company on, in the same discussions as like Eventide or something like that. Or,
it's
we got
humbling,
we got to work with Line 6, as in our 20s.
Yep.
And that was like awesome. And the whole experience of being able to work with people that were mentors and had this historical background has been amazing, right?
Yeah, that was like supercharged learning experience, because all those guys were, a lot of them were Oberheim guys, our mentors, Marcus and Michelle.
Marcus Ryle,
Michelle
Dwadik, and Marcus referred to you guys as young stars.
It's nice of him.
Yeah, it's very, very kind of him. Yeah, he's our our heroes. Like he taught us. I mean, that whole experience taught us so much. It was supercharged version of learning because of the freedom they afforded us, and also the mentorship.
You got your start at Line 6?
Yeah.
Both of you together? You just ran into
I got my
each other?
start as a teenager repairing synths and guitar amps and stuff like that, and was super lucky to get a job ending up in the engineering department at Line 6. Yeah, that was my first music company job.
And then from there?
From there, I was fortunate to be able to start my own little company. That was Strymon. And then
you started Strymon.
And then, with Gina, who designs all of our graphics and does all of our artwork and all of the creative stuff for our company. And then left Strymon to do Meris because I got a chance to work with Angelo.
And you came straight from Line 6?
Yeah, we met at Line 6. I started in '99, and I was lucky enough to work on tons of different pedals and amplifiers and algorithms, and working with talented people. And Terry we bonded not only over the work, but also over comedy and music. So
that's a good combination.
So it was just through that experience, we were able to get together again at the beginning of 2014.
So now together, what do you see as the future? Is it going to be horsepower, more expression controls? What's going to take this to the next level? What you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, horsepower for me is I'm always running out. So,
and horsepower means exactly what? Like
So it's that recipe list. How many things can I add to that list? How extensive of a recipe can I make?
Or how detailed can you make
Yeah,
one of those
yeah.
items, right?
But it's
Like,
processor speed plus memory. Right?
Yeah, both
That's
those
the
things.
combination.
Yeah,
It is,
yeah, both those
Yeah.
things.
And is there anything in store? Like, you think that we're going to have some big stride forward where you're
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
able to?
Things are exciting, yeah,
It's constantly.
for sure.
Yeah, it's
It
constant.
was already exciting when we started this, as opposed to the kind of parts that we're using for processors at line 6 and even at Strymon, like doing the new generation of stuff with these pedals was way faster. Yeah.
Great. Wow. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's really great for me and for our audience to have you guys explain this, because I knew through the explanation that a lot of things would come up just like it did, things that I never really knew, and how to correlate some of the older devices to some of the newer devices, like really what's going on in there. But I like it because it just helps me musically to think about it. Knowing the process. It's like learning about an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
When I learn what a violin can do or a clarinet can do, I write differently for it. I know, there's weird things that happen in the clarinet in certain ranges, right? And there's the clarion range, and then there's the darker range and all that. So thinking about the older stuff now, I like it. And also, it's exciting. I do really love digital pedals. The reason I reached out to you guys is because I really liked the Meris Reverb. That's what got me into it. The Mercury, the original one. And then I got into the Polymoons. And it just took me different places. Like, I guess because now I'm hearing about why it did. Because you guys dreamed the stuff up and liked it and thought it could be used musically. And I've been doing that. So looking forward to more things, and hopefully maybe another discussion when we get to the next, the next level of DSP, and also of analog. Like, I don't know what to think, but somehow I think analog's going to find some other, maybe the way it gets introduced with digital in a different kind of way.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm thinking. So this has been great. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Yeah, thank you for having us here.
Yeah.
See you guys next time. Remember to like and subscribe. Hope you loved it.